This is going to be a guide you can use today in the gym that's going to put you on the right path to building muscle as fast as possible and getting jacked. I know a lot of us want to go into the gym, but we just put it off or we feel kind of anxious because we're not sure if we're doing the right workouts or what specific exercises you should be doing. And I was in this exact same position because it can be really overwhelming when you're trying to figure all this out. I didn't know what exercises to do or what workouts I should be doing. And so this is going to be a great workout plan if you're just getting into lifting. Maybe you're just coming back after a break, or if you're in the gym and you just kind of feel like you're winging it too much. So, that being said, let's get into it. So, the split I like to go by and what I believe in is best is going to be the push pull leg split. So, typically this is done over 6 days, but the cool thing is you can change this up and you can do it for 3 days. And even if you want to, you can switch it to a 5 day hybrid split. And the reason I think that this is best is because you're training each muscle group at least twice per week, and that's going to give you more volume, which is going to result in more muscle growth. The other great thing about this split is that since it's over 6 days, you can really focus in on each muscle group and you can really break those down throughout all those days. And so this is going to result in you having a more balanced physique. So the first day we're going to start off with is a push day. And so the push day primarily focuses on your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps. So the first exercise is going to be the bench press. Now, you can do these with dumbbells, you can do these with a barbell. The point with this really though is not to be going super heavy, right? If you're just getting into this, you want to be careful because this can lead to injury. This is why I would recommend using dumbbells to start because it's really great at building stabilization throughout your arm in every direction versus the bar is mostly just straight up and down. And so the point with this is to make sure that your chest is out, your back is going to be arched, and that you're keeping a tight core. Typically, we're going to be doing a 5x5 with this, where the two initial sets are going to be lighter weight, and then you're kind of going to go to your mid weight, and then at the very last two sets, you're going to be doing the heaviest weight. So next up is going to be the incline bench press. And now this can be done with a machine. I like to use dumbbells because it's really good and it's really easy to get a squeeze at the top of the movement and really feel that upper chest. We want to do more volume with the incline movement because, like I was saying, I do things a little bit differently in the sense that I focus on the upper chest because if you've seen people who do a ton of benching and like lower chest, they have a overdeveloped mid and lower chest, and we really don't want that because it gives you this sort of hollowed out look that just doesn't look good, and it's not a complete chest. So to fill out your chest, you really want to focus on the upper portion, and a lot of people neglect it. So I was guilty of making this mistake myself, and so don't make that mistake. Make sure you're doing a lot of volume with your upper chest and focusing more on that rather than the mid and lower chest. So one tip I can give you with the incline is to make sure that your bench is like anywhere from 30 to 45 degrees. Test it out and see what you like, but you really want to try to feel it more in your chest than in your shoulders. And if you feel it in your shoulders, it's typically because the bench is too high up and you're doing more of a shoulder press than an actual upper chest press. All right, so next up is going to be shoulders. And like I said, we're going to be focused on the side delts. The reason why I'm focusing more on the side delts is because it's one of the most important things that you can build to really get that width, right? And really get that V taper. The other thing is that a lot of people focus a lot on their front delts, which tend to also be overdeveloped because when you're bench pressing, right, and you're doing a lot of pressing movements, a lot of other movements, you're already working the front delt a lot. So you don't really need to put a ton of extra time into just the front delt. Typically, the side delt and rear delt on lifters are actually underdeveloped. So we really want to focus on the side delt here, and the best way we can do that is with the dumbbell lateral raise. So we're going to be using dumbbells in the dumbbell lateral raise, obviously, and we want to make sure that the weight is going to be light. This is not an exercise you're going heavy on. You want to be doing lightweight, you want to be doing high reps, and really getting a good pump, sending a ton of blood into your side delts, and really feeling that burn, right? You really want this to be a controlled movement. You don't want to be trying to like swing weights, heavy weights around. That's not how you build the delts. And so it's really important as you're going through this exercise to just think about also moving your elbows first, right? Like try to lead the movement with your elbows as the highest point instead of using your hands as the highest point. Try to think about leading with your elbows, keeping your arms at a slight angle. You don't want them at like 90 degrees, but you also don't want them straight out. So you want like a slight bend and just really think about leading with your elbows, doing high reps and lightweight, and you're going to see some good results. So we're going to supplement the dumbbell lateral raises with cable raises. Now these are great because unlike the dumbbells, it keeps constant tension on your delt, right? With the dumbbells, as we get near the bottom, we lose that tension because it's just gravity and we're just holding the dumbbells. But with the cable, it's actually, even if it's behind your body, it still has tension. And so with these, what you want to do is you want to step out a bit, step off to the right or the left, depending on which arm you're using. And you want to use lightweight again. You want to get up to about parallel and make sure you're going slow on the way down. That's really key to keeping that tension and really getting a good pump and sending a ton of blood into your delts. You're going to notice an insane pump if you do these right. Okay, so the last muscle we want to be working on our push day is going to be the tricep. So I really like dips. It's a great overall movement to target every part of the tricep. Now, the thing with these is if you lean forward a lot, you're really going to be targeting more your lower chest, which we don't want. So try to keep a bit more of a straight up and down movement. It's going to be a little bit difficult and you're going to have a bit of a slight lean, but don't really lean in too far because then you're going to be doing more of a lower chest movement. So with the dips, don't go too fast. Try to keep it slow. Don't lock out at the top. Make sure that your elbows are still bent and make sure you don't go too deep because that can be actually very dangerous for the rest of your shoulders. You don't want to be going too deep into the dip. You want to basically hit parallel, hit parallel and then just go back up. Make sure that it's a slower movement and that you're not just bouncing up and down. That's not the key here. It's to go slow and keep good form. If you find this too hard, instead you can do tricep rope extensions. So essentially what this is it's going to work the triceps, but it's a little bit easier to do than dips. And it might be a good thing for you to do if you can't do dips yet as a way to sort of work up to being able to do dips eventually. So essentially it's just you're going to take the rope, you're pulling down, and you really want to think about using your elbows as the lever here, right? We're not swinging our shoulders. You really want to just use the elbows as the lever point, and then we're going to squeeze down at the bottom and you're going to let it up slowly. So now we're focusing on pull day, which we're really going to be focusing on working the back muscles, the biceps, and the shoulders once again. Now with the shoulders, it's important to understand that we are working shoulders, but specifically today, we're going to be focusing on rear delts. We did the side delts, now we're doing the rear delts. The front delts have pretty much been covered by most of our pressing movements, so let's jump into it. The first exercise we're going to use is going to be the lat pull down, which is amazing exercise for your lats, which is really important to work because it's the biggest muscle in your back and responsible for that V taper. Now, what I like to do is keep just a little bit outside shoulder width grip. And when you're pulling down, thinking about squeezing and contracting your lats. And on the way up, you're going slow. It's really important to go slow on the way up because that's really going to tear up your lats, give you a great pump. And, just use a weight where you can actually feel your lats. You don't need to go crazy heavy, but just use a weight and a rep range where you're actually getting a pump and you're actually feeling that connection. So lats are important, but it's also important to work the upper back. And so you can do any type of row. I think a machine row is a great place to start out just to try to understand where that movement is. It's pretty easy. It's not too hard on your body. And so what you're really doing here is you're keeping your elbows at like a 45-degree angle as you're coming back. And you really want to contract your upper back. You want to squeeze it together, right? Think about squeezing your shoulder blades together. And this is going to be great at working your traps, your rhomboids, and a lot of other muscles that are in your upper back. Okay, so the next muscle group we're working is the biceps, right? Everybody wants to have big biceps. And so one of the greatest exercises I found for this is to be doing an incline bench curl. Okay, so essentially you're going to set up the bench as if you were doing what we talked about earlier with the incline bench press, right? So when you have those dumbbells and you're on the incline bench and you're doing that, it's the same setup with the bench. Now, what you're going to be doing here is essentially lowering the dumbbells down all the way so that you get a really good stretch, right? You kind of want to completely lock out down at the bottom and then come up. And when you're at the top, you really want to squeeze. Give it a hard squeeze and repeat that process on your way down, right? You're going slow, you're stretching all the way out at the bottom, and then you're coming up and giving a really good squeeze. This will give you an insane pump if you do it right. Great add-on to this is actually the cable curl because once again, just like with the dumbbell lateral raises we were doing, it keeps constant tension on the bicep. So once again, you're just basically attaching a handle to a cable and you want to fully stretch the bicep. It's really important with the biceps to get that full stretch and then curling at the top. And it's very similar to the incline. It's just with this, you're going to be standing. And with the cable, it's just a little bit better at keeping on that constant tension. Last muscle group on the pull day is going to be the shoulders, and that's going to be a rear delt focus. So many people neglect their rear delts, so don't be one of them. Essentially, the first exercise we're going to do is face pulls, which can be pretty difficult to master, but essentially you want your thumbs pointing back. You want to have a lighter weight and pulling to your nose. So you want the cable to be kind of positioned in a higher position and coming down. And you want to be using a higher rep range and use a longer rope as well. You can use 2 extension ropes together, or you could just try to find a longer rope in your gym. But yeah, you want to make sure you have a lot of distance so that you can actually pull and really contract your back. Another great thing to use for the rear delts is the fly machine, but you can reverse it so that instead of using it for your chest, you're actually using it for your delts. Now, there's nothing really complicated about this. Just make sure you find like a good seat position, good handle position. And again, you're just using enough weight to where you can actually get a full contraction, really feel the burn in your rear delts. All right, so that's the upper body done. Let's jump on to legs now. We cannot forget legs, super important. So first up, really with the legs, I like to focus mostly and primarily on quads. Every aspect of your legs are important, but primarily the focus is going to be going on the quads. So in order to do that, the best thing that you can do is front squat. Now, front squats can be kind of difficult to do, and it's probably a little bit more advanced. So if you can't do front squats, you can also do back squats. And really, I think using both is optimal. But the front squats are going to target more of the front of your body. It's going to target more of your core, more of your quads. Whereas the back squats are going to target more of your glutes, your hamstrings. And so you can kind of mix it up, but definitely practice and incorporate the front squat because it's really great quad builder. And it's really important with squats that you're hitting parallel or deeper for optimal muscle growth. It can be really difficult when you're first starting because your flexibility might not be there yet. I know it took me a long time to work up my flexibility so that I can actually have a good depth in squat. So don't worry about it. Just use a lighter weight, make sure that you're actually doing good form and you're not overloading because it can be really dangerous too for your back and just for your joints in general. But over time, work on your flexibility, increase your flexibility, and do not neglect squatting because it's one of the best overall compound exercises for building muscle. Really, the way I do these is the same as the bench press, which was 5x5, where you're kind of warming up with two lighter sets, one heavier set in the middle, and then at the very end, you're doing the two heaviest sets. So once you're done with your squats, the next thing you can focus on is leg extensions. Now, these are really great for giving you an insane pump and burn in your quads. I think these are one of the best things to do for your quads, but it's important that you don't put too much weight because you can end up putting a lot of strain on your knees, right, and on your joints. And so you want to be using a light weight and you want to be doing a really high rep range. For me, I like to be anywhere between 15 and 20 reps for leg extensions. So to target hamstrings and glutes, really for me, the best exercise, my favorite exercise is the RDLs or Romanian deadlifts. Now, again, these can be kind of difficult, especially if you've never done a deadlift before, because essentially it's a deadlift, except that you're not putting it on the ground. You're not letting that barbell hit the ground. You can do these with dumbbells as well, and that might actually be an easier way to start learning how to do these. But essentially, you're not really bending your knees that much. You're going to do a slight bend in your knee, and you're really sort of thinking about moving your hips back, right? Your hips are really coming back, and you're feeling that stretch in your hamstrings and in your glutes, and then you're coming back up. So you're using your hips, pushing out, coming down, slight bend in the knee, and you want to really keep that back straight, right? You want to keep that back as parallel as possible, and you want to keep your head looking somewhat in a 45-degree direction, not straight up. And you're really using your hamstrings and glutes on the way back up to push you back into position. So this is something that's probably going to just take you practice over time. You can go watch videos on how to do it properly, but the RDLs are one of the best things that you can do. After we're done with these, just like with the leg extensions, we can do a seated curl with, again, you're doing light weights, high rep range with these, and it's really going to burn your freaking hamstrings so bad if you're doing it right, a higher rep range, lighter weight. This is a great way to supplement after RDLs if you want to target your hamstrings even more. Okay, so the last part of the legs that we need to focus on is the calves. Now, a lot of people do neglect calves, and I don't think that it's really a super priority, but it is important to still target them. So I like to do standing and seated. You can mix it up with the standing. Personally, I like to use like a Smith machine with any sort of elevation that you can get, and really you can go heavier with these ones. Just really make sure that with your calves, when you're coming up towards the top, make sure that you're actually squeezing and contracting for like a second before you just go down again. I've seen people, and I used to be guilty of doing this thing where basically you're just like bouncing up and down, like your calves are just bouncing up and down. That's not really doing that much. So as you're going up, make sure you squeeze at the top and then slowly come back down and give yourself a full stretch. Same thing applies to when you're seated, but if you want to do lighter weight and higher reps, that's probably more optimal for the seated calf raises. If you don't have an actual seated machine at your gym, you can kind of improvise by using like a 45-pound plate, putting it under your feet, and using some dumbbells on your knees and doing it that way. You can use any other object that will really get you enough elevation while you're seated, and you could just use some dumbbells, and that'll be good enough for seated calf raises. Last thing to talk about is going to be core. I like to keep things really simple, and so I think the easiest way with core is really just to be doing hanging leg raises. Now, again, these can be kind of more advanced. Maybe you're not at that level yet. So you could also try hanging knee raises or the captain's chair. Either one of those would work. And also, another great one is the decline crunch. So if you have a decline machine in your gym, or you've got a bench that you can angle down, you can just basically sit on there and just do crunches from there. And over time, as you get better at this, you can add on a bit of weight. And so that'll give you some resistance. On screen, I'm going to put a sample workout that you can just screenshot all this, right? I'm going to put like an estimate rep range and all the different exercises. You can just screenshot this and use this in the gym for your push pull legs. And that way, it's all there and you can just remember it without having to rewatch the entire video all over again. A couple last tips I want to put in here is that make sure you warm up before getting into all this, right? Before you just walk in there and just start throwing weights around. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes even, right? Just to warm up, just to get your body warmed up. And that will really help you long term with avoiding injury and also performing the exercises better because your body is warmed up and ready to go. Also, something that's really helped me is to think about the actual muscle I'm working. So, for example, if I'm doing a lat pull down, I actually think in my mind about lats. Do I feel the lats? Does it feel right? Instead of being distracted and just going through the movement, try to make that mind muscle connection, and I think you will actually see better results and more muscle gain from this because you're going to do micro adjustments over time based off of whether you're feeling it or not, right? With the biceps, are you actually feeling it or are you just going through the motion? Try to really think about each muscle as you're working it and focus on it and try to really understand how it works. So we basically covered everything. This is what I use to build muscle and it works extremely well. You can take whatever you want from this. You can use the templates, you can just take aspects of this, any tips you may have gotten from it, from my training. This is what I found most useful and I just want to have it out there so that people who are in my position when I first started don't have to go through the experimentation and trying to figure out a million different things and being completely overwhelmed like I was. So just want to say thank you for watching and I will see you next time. Peace.